So now it's time to implement a very, very typical social networking app kind of feature. And of course, that's our following and followers feature. It just wouldn't be a social app without this. And what we're going to need, as mentioned in the intro, is a join table. .NET 5 or Entity Framework 5 does not work particularly well when it comes to self-referencing many-to-many tables. So what we definitely need in this case is our own, effectively, join table that we configure even though we're not going to add any additional properties that we need to track inside here. So what we'll do is we'll create a new class and we're going to call this user following. And this is going to be our join entity. So what we need is a string for the observer ID, and we need the app user, which is going to be the observer. This is the person who is going to follow another user. And then we need the target of their observation. So we'll have target ID and we'll say prop app user and target. It's always a bit tricky actually with the naming of things when it comes to something like this. This is the way it works best for myself, having observers and targets rather than something like followers and followees, that kind of thing. So we're always going to have an observer that's following a target. That's the idea of the naming here, and it does hopefully make sense to yourselves as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to add this relationship to our app user entity. So what we need in the case of this kind of relationship is we need two additional properties. We need two collections. One for the followings and one for the followers. So what we'll do is we'll specify a new iCollection and we'll add the type of user following, and this one we'll call followings, who is the current user following, and we'll add another iCollection, again user followings, and we'll call this one followers, who is following the currently logged in user. And what we'll do is we'll go and configure this relationship in the data context. So we'll open this. And what we'll do is we'll add a DB set because we need to query this collection directly. And we'll say user following, and we'll call it user followings. And then we need to configure this relationship as well in the onModel creating method. So we'll scroll down. And what we'll do this time is we'll say builder.entity, and we'll pass in user following as the type. And then we'll just use the builder or build action inside here and open up curly brackets. And then we can say b.hasKey, and we'll say key goes to a new object, and just like our other join table, we'll make the primary key up of the observer ID and the target ID in this case. And then we'll configure the two sides of the relationship that we need. So we'll say b.hasOne, and we'll say o goes to o.observer, and then we'll say with many, and we'll say f goes to f.followings, and then we'll say has foreign key, and we'll say o goes to o.observer ID, and then we'll configure the onDelete behavior. What do we want to do if we were to allow users to delete their user profile? And in this case, if we deleted a user, do we want to delete the entries in our user following table? And in this case, I would say yes, we do. So we're going to set the delete behavior to cascade. So if we deleted a user, then that would remove the entries in the user followings table for that particular user. And then what we need to do is configure the other side of this relationship. So I'm just going to copy this, engage lazy mode once again, and paste it in and attempt to reformat, which never works very well, and then just manually shift these over. So in the other case, we need the other side. So this is going to be target with many followers, and has foreign key target ID, and we'll keep the same delete behavior here as well, and just close this off with a semicolon. So this is going to form our relationship, and if we go ahead and add a new migration, we'll need to stop our API server if it is running. Mine is not. And we'll cd up into the reactivities folder, and just as we've done before, we're going to say .NET EF migrations add, and we'll just call it following entity added, and we'll say P for persistence and S for API, and press return. And we get our new migration created, and let's go check it out. So what we'll do, we'll just go into our migrations folder, scroll down to our new migration, and see what's going on in here. So we've got a create table method called user followings, that's fine. And we've got our observer ID and target ID as the column, along with our constraints where we've got the primary key made up of the observer ID and the target ID. And then we've got our two foreign key constraints, both of course going to the same table, the ASP.NET users table, and using the foreign keys from there. So each time we create a following, we're just going to have an entry in our user followings table for the observer ID and the target ID. So what we'll take a look at next is adding a handler which will allow us to follow or unfollow a user.